Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. So for today's video I'm doing my December wrap up, and yeah, I'm actually having a little bit change of scenario. Usually I film in my room with my bookshelf, but I kind of wanted to change things up a little bit and sit on a sofa instead of the floor. And yeah, I actually have my garden slippers on. So when I say cozy, I mean I'm really cozy. I'm at my coziest. Grab a drink or a snack because it's going to be a long one, and if I'm not mistaken, I think December was actually the month where I read the most books that I read within a month of 2023, which is 15 books if I haven't mentioned that already. But out of 8 books that were on my TBR list, I managed to read 5, well technically 6, because the first book that I'm going to mention, which I read these two, and they're by Donna Tartt, and I originally wanted to read this. Literary fiction came up on a prompt, and I really wanted to read this, but then in my library the queue for it was basically really long to wait, and so I said that I will read this. I mean, there's a big difference between these two, right? Which I'm still wanting to read this, but I just couldn't do 2 literary fictions back to back. I couldn't, but I did manage to pick these up both at the same time. I don't know what happened for this because the queue was supposed to be way too long. Maybe there was a glitch, I don't know. Hoping maybe in January before I hand it back to the library. This one, let's talk about this one since I did read this one. It is Dark Academia, and I read half of this and I wanted to DNF it really badly because it was going by slow, right? It was going by so slow that I just wasn't sure how the book was going to end, but I was really intrigued, so that is what kept me from DNFing it. And by the end of it, I actually really enjoyed it, and I feel like that was the whole point of the book. So you get Richard's point of view, and he kind of tells the whole story of what's kind of happening a little bit. You get a little bit of the background on him and his life, and then like you see most of it happens in college basically, and then it's the journey of in college where he kind of attends a Greek course where he meets these other 5 misfits. And you know, I love the close group of friends and the way that they interacted with one another. By the end of it, I absolutely love these characters. I love the world, and the whole point I feel like of the book is when you're in the midst of it all, you're kind of like not sure, you know, how things are going to end. And when, for example, college does end for him, he misses that experience, he misses it. And I love it so much by the end, so I did give it 4.5 stars. I feel like it's really deserving. A little bit hard to get into, like I couldn't really give 5 stars for that, but maybe if it was my reread, I feel like I would appreciate it a lot more because I kind of like already know the story. So I absolutely love this one, even though the start of it was a little bit off for me. But don't get it twisted, it's a little bit disturbing at parts. The things that you're reading, you're kind of like cringing because it's a little bit disturbing, and what they go through is obsession, betrayal. Like there's a lot that happens kind of in this. Like by the end of it, the secrets that end up spilling, like I was shocked because I didn't see them coming. Right, the next book that I read is When She Unravels, and this one I actually read pretty much in one day and I couldn't stop. So it's dark romance, so there's a lot that really happens in this. There's the captive, possessive MMC, and Touch Her, and and it's mostly based around mafia, so I love me some good mafia book. So it's fast-paced, spicy book, and kept me entertained. Great palate cleanser, absolutely loved it. I think it was like such an easy quick read, especially great for in between books that you were reading out of your comfort zone, because that's what happened to me. I was reading a bunch of like books out of my comfort zone at the time, and I needed to take a breather and binge a book front to back real quick, and that's what this was. Now the next book that I read is Mr. Mercedes by Stephen King, and this one was the first book that I read by Stephen King, and shockingly, not shockingly, this really was one of the most disturbing books that I read, if not the most disturbing book that I read. And I was really curious, and I've heard so much about him, but I wasn't sure which book to start with. And this one I thought was really interesting because this one actually has a series on Disney Plus, and I was like, you know what, I'll read it and then I'll watch this series just in comparison. And surprisingly, the series I feel like is a little easier to watch than when you're reading the book. The book just goes into like so much detail on the disturbing things and things that the characters think about. And don't read the back of the book, because the back of the book actually gives away who is the serial killer. And I didn't read the back of the book, I went into it blindly, and I think about 20% in the book you kind of get the perspective of the killer, and it's just really interesting. So it's his point of view and also the detectives, and he's kind of like trying to solve this case, and like it was the case that he was obsessed with. The way that the book sets the first scene in it, it was really disturbing. So I didn't give it like 4.5 stars, like really enjoyed it. It would have been a 5-star if it wasn't this disturbing, but then again I feel like I gave it such a high rating because of the way that Stephen King really wrote the story. Like it just was really intriguing, but I kept picking up the book and putting it down, picking it up and putting it down. Like it was just one of those books where I just couldn't, like, wanted to know the way that it's going to end. Now let's talk about the Guild series. So I read the first book a while back, and this month the second book was on my TBR to be read list. And you know, as one of those, like I read the book and it was really binging, and it reminds me of A Court of Mist and Fury, and a mix between A Daughter of the Worlds, but more of a, I don't want to use the word cheaper alternative, but like, because both of those books, A Daughter of the Worlds and A Court of Mist and Fury, like I really love those books. They were my 5-star books. So this one kind of reminded me of that. So I gave the second book 4.25 stars. Like I really enjoyed it, and it was mostly like, her books I feel like are really slow, like there's not really much happening, but I think this one was mostly kind of in terms of setting the scene, kind of getting more to know the main character and her getting to know all the new characters. But it's definitely better than the first book. And then I just couldn't stop at the second book, you know, I picked up the third book as well. Which this one I actually really liked. I gave that one 4.75 stars, and it was almost a 5-star book for me, but it was cringy at parts. It was cringy at parts. And Raven Kennedy actually does her cliffhangers really well. Like you can't just put the book down, you're obsessed with the ending, and you just keep thinking about the book, about the ending, and you're like, you know what, I have to know. So that is how you manage to pick up the next book as well. And her books are actually really long in a way, and they just keep getting longer and longer with each book. Like what did annoy me a little bit was that there were a lot of POVs, and it felt like I just didn't want to read POVs about characters that I didn't like. But then it's essential because you get more of the idea of what's happening in the story a bit more. And the third book really was mostly about a character that I was really excited about, and I just really enjoyed it in that sense. And when I did get to the fourth book, which I gave that one 4.5 stars, I enjoyed it, but then I didn't enjoy it as much. Now I think by the fourth book I was kind of hooked, and I was mostly hooked for Slade's POV, male character in it that I'm absolutely obsessed with. He's like in the army, and I just really enjoy his POV. However, the spice in it just kept getting a bit more cringier and cringier. I felt like it really reminded me of Tessa Bailey's Spice books, because I think her books are a little bit cringy as well. Not a little bit, a lot cringy, and I can't really read her books. Now from Look Up With Love, this was a Mariana Zapata book that I read, and this one was another slow book, and it's also a slow burn romance, but she does slow burn romances, what did I just say? She does slow burn romances the best. I haven't read anything by any other author who does them so well as she. So it's a type of book where like it says enemies to lovers, so basically they kind of insult one another, but like there's so much banter in this and a really cute kind of like wholesome snippets here and there as well, and I really enjoyed by the end of it. So the first 100 I've actually talked about this before, but the first 100 pages of this book, they felt so slow because she kind of tried to decide if she is going to go through with a decision, and I'm like, girl, this is what the whole book is about. Of course you're gonna go through of course you're gonna go through the decision, of course you're going to agree to it. But the book is about ice skating, if you haven't realized the whole, you know, ice on the book. And when I say this is the slowest of the slow burns, I mean action only happens within the last 15 pages of the book. Yeah, I really enjoyed it though. Like the epilogue of this was chef's kisses. Honest to God, I don't think I've read epilogue where it was so wholesome. The next book that I've read is Closer to Love by Vex King, and this one is more along the lines of a self-help book, but in a relationship kind of. So kind of felt like he was waffling on at times, and there were a lot of times, but I gave it 4 stars. I thought it's something that I read and I felt like something that I needed to hear at the time, and especially if you went through a breakup either recently, or you can't stop thinking about if you made the right decision or not and you keep going back and forth. I feel like this book would really give you a whole other perspective on things and kind of make up your mind a bit more on if you did the right thing. It will kind of just make you rethink the whole concept on love and relationships, so I did think it was good. Now the next book that I read is Serpent and Dove, or Dove and Serpent. I absolutely love this book. So when it got to page 100 or so, the whole world building and stuff, and it was a bit slow, and I was just like, why do people love this book? I don't get it, because the rating on it was like high enough. It was above 4 stars, and I was like, I'm just really not getting the story. And then once it got to around 100 pages, it was a little under 100 pages, and there's something happens between the female main character and the male main character, and they're forced into a marriage, right? But they obviously get to agree or not, but they're kind of put into these terms of either they do it or, you know, they will have consequences. And I'm like, yes, like that was the part that I was waiting for. Once he got to that, I was like, okay, now I get it. And the things in the book that were happening between the both characters, I loved the banter. So it's kind of like enemies to lovers, but not brutally, like there's no rivalry in a sense of where it's brutal, but it's a witch and huntsman kind of vibe, first proximity, and also MMC is a virgin, if anybody's looking out for that. I don't know. And the funny part is the huntsman doesn't even know that she's a witch. So it's a world of witches where they get burned to the stake and they're being hunted, and so she's kind of like trying to hide because she actually flew from her coven. So I did give it 4.5 stars. Really enjoyed that one. Okay, so the next couple books are actually going to be one of my favorite books that I've read, and they're by Chloe Walsh. The first one that I read is Treacherous. That one was, one thing I will say about Chloe Walsh, I'm absolutely obsessed with all of her books, the ones that I've read so far, which is a lot. Like, she's one of the authors that I will recommend to everyone. Boys of Torment series, like, highly recommend. So this one is actually neighbors trope. They're pulling pranks against one another, so they're kind of basically enemies to lovers. And she moves down for a year to Texas, I think it was. But like, the writing is so addictive. You're flying through the book. I think I read that one actually in a day's time. You get dual point of view, and they're always my favorite books. So yeah, that one was nearly 5 stars for me. I feel like it would have been 5 stars, but the ending, I mean, it kind of broke my heart a little bit. Then I ended up reading Always, which is a novella and kind of like a continuation from the first book, and you kind of get a glimpse more on the side character, well, kind of main character but also side character, and the side character Hope, where you kind of get little glimpses of her relationship and Jordan's, and those two characters just weren't really as intriguing for me, and I thought like it's not going to be interesting. So it's a little under 100 pages, and funnily enough I couldn't put the book down because only Chloe Walsh can get you to read characters and be intrigued about characters you didn't really care about. Like, I will say it out loud again for people in the back, like she is the only author who's done that. She's the only author. And the cliffhanger, the way that the book ended, I cannot believe, like I was this close, really this close to jumping into the next book, but I moved on to another book. I just kind of wanted to take a break because I want to drag out her books as much as possible, because I know once I finish them, and I will finish them like easily within back to back and not feel sorry about it. But then when I'll be done with all her books, like what am I going to do then? What am I going to do then? So the next book that I read is Killjoy by Holly Jackson, and it's a prequel to her A Good Girl's Guide to Murder books. And you're technically supposed to read this first before that series, and this one is a novella, so it's supposed to be short, but somehow I'm just not connecting with her writing at all, and I did give this one 2 stars. It sounded intriguing, but for me I just couldn't really, either it's her writing or the story, I'm not sure. It just kind of felt like a lot happening within the novella, because you go to a murder mystery party and then you kind of get a glimpse of all these characters, but then on top of it you're supposed to know all these other new characters that belong kind of in this murder mystery party. You're kind of mixed up a lot of the time. And then I was reading the book, but it just took me forever to finish it, especially for a novella that I should have just sat in one place and finished it. It took me forever. So, and then since it was December, the next book that I had read is The Gift by Frida McFadden, and dare I say that might be my actually favorite book of hers that I've read, and it's a novella. I think that kind of says a lot about that, actually. I think it was the whole point that it got right to the point of it, like it really got to the point so fast, and it really intrigued me. The ending, I did not see that coming. And I was shocked. I was so shocked because I couldn't really understand how a waitress is connected to this lady who owns an antique shop, and the premise of it sounded really intriguing. So I gave 4 stars only because like I was really intrigued. I love the story, but maybe I would even give it 4.25 stars actually, because I don't think I gave any of her other books a rating higher than 4 stars, and I like this one more than the other ones I read, so 4.25 stars actually. Now, my one and only 5-star book of the month was Malibu Rising, and I'm obsessed with the book, and I didn't think I would be, because the whole point of the book is about surfing, which is not something that you would see in her books a lot, like some sort of sport or hobby that she kind of like makes the whole book about. And this one was based around surfing. Tell me how and tell me why. I was absolutely obsessed with it. I couldn't put the book down, and I absolutely related to the character so much on the deadbeat daddy that I relate to so badly. But it's kind of based around not just the 4 main characters who are siblings, but on everyone's point of view. So you kind of like get the description about their parents, their parents, the people that attended the party. So the whole point was of them kind of seeing hour by the hour of everything going wrong within 24 hours, and it's the 24 hours that a party happens on, and there's a lot of things that happen that night, and the way that their lives get changed within those 24 hours, like mind-blowing, because they all kind of have secrets. But the way that T.J. Orr writes her books, I like, you just know the characters like almost they would exist in real life, and just so beautifully written, so beautifully written. And then last but not least, it's a Chloe Walsh book, and it's A Pocketful of Blame, and I was really obsessed with it. So I gave this one 4.5 stars just because in all her other books, like, you see more of banter between characters, and this one didn't have as much of it, but it was more of a mystery in a sense. It was also short. It was just under 200 pages long, but the premise of it again just seemed so intriguing. So the FMC who lives in a small town. Her father is very powerful, and then her neighbor who is friends with her father is also a very powerful figure, and he has 2 kids and they're twins. My battery is about to die. Oh god. And they're twins. One gets killed, one of them is her lover, the other one is her best friend, and yeah, it just was really intriguing. Absolutely loved it. And there's a whole scene that I cannot get out of my head, is when she's in a treehouse with one of the twins, and her foot seems to slip, and it's a treehouse that's like 30 feet above the ground, and I mean that's high, and so she's kind of going through this whole thing where she's kind of like not sure what to do, and then she's like looking at one of the twins, and she's like, and he can see in her eyes, he's like, don't you dare, he says to her, don't you dare, because he sees in her eyes that she's about to let go, and so he jumps for her and she just lets go, and he brings her to a hospital. I couldn't get that scene out of my head. Anyways, absolutely loved it. I gave that one 4.5 stars. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.